Hello and welcome to our webinar Demystifying the UAE Invoicing Mandate. I am Shivani Thakkar and in this session we'll walk you through the key aspect of UAE Invoicing Mandates, compliance essentials, implementation best practices and how technology can enhance efficiency. Joining us are two subject matter experts, Mr. Neeraj Hatte Singh. Neeraj is a pioneer in digital finance transformation, driving strategic innovation in compliance solution with focus on VAT and e-invoicing solution globally. Mr. Akash Chaudhary. Akash specializes in digital transformation with a focus on compliance and automation, successfully leading invoicing projects across the Middle East and guiding organizations to maintain compliance while driving operational efficiency. We'll cover understanding invoicing and its importance, UA's compliance framework and roadmap, common challenges and solutions, step for successful implementation, future trends in tax and compliance. Let's get started. Over to you, Neeraj and Akash.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivani. I'm now sharing my screen as we speak. Hi, Neeraj sir. Let's get started. So I think first things first, can can start with a short intro of who we are and how we do things.
Yeah. So, Akash, as you know, that we are a IT services and a product company established over 25 years, and incidentally, we are completing over 25 years this year. Globally present, having developed multiple different applications for clients across the globe. And since last 7, 8 years, extremely what you called is working towards indirect tax in a big way. So indirect tax is our forte. We started with India, we then did Saudi Arabia, we are covering today Malaysia, Singapore, some of the African countries, some European countries, and we are also a people accredited partner, so covering maybe multiple different European countries with people accreditation. Highly certified, because when you talk about indirect tax data, you are talking about granular data of the customers, and that's extremely important that we are able to provide the necessary security and safety for the customers data. So highly accredited with multiple different ISO certifications, CMM and ISO 27001 security, and also SOC 1 and SOC 2. So these are the critical aspects for which makes us very different and unique in terms of our offerings. And two major pointers I would always highlight when we talk about Signet. Being a services company, we have a very large workforce to do implementations and integrations for our clients. And being able to do in-house most of these activities makes us very premier provider into the whole region. So that's a uniqueness for us as an organization.
Very true. I think no two implementations are same, and that has helped us. Our technology wing has helped us a lot in that. Now, apart from these certification, I think we have got very good accreditations from different tax authorities. If you just want to give us an overview of that.
So we are kind of registered into the UAE FTA tax authorities for multiple different areas. So we are registered as a technology service providers, and we are also kind of registered for the Muafak package, which is for the small medium organization. So that we are working means like as a technology service provider accredited on ZK, we GSTN, we are as a GSP, and we are also invoice registry portal for the government. So not only doing activities for the corporate side, but also receiving the e-invoices from the government side. So that is also something we have done. We are also onto the people network, HMRC and MDAC also. We are onto those accredited networks as well.
All right. And I guess the GST and IRP would mean we can function as somewhat similar to like a corner five if
Yes,
we consider it
very true. Very true. And it's a pure corner file kind of application wherein we accept the invoices, we digitally sign it, and then we pass it on to the GSTN network for the integration with the GSTN database. So that's something that we do on the IRP platform as well.
Focusing on our key offerings.
Yeah, these are some of the key offerings that we have. E-invoicing is something a primary offering. And I always talked about verification of invoicing. So talking about invoicing without having a VAT solution or a tax solution is not worth it. So we always talk about invoicing with a VAT solution as well. we are working very heavily into the purchase digitization, because if you want to really take benefits as a corporate for invoicing, then purchase digitization is very important, where you save a lot of human effort, lot of time, and you are able to automate many things. And you also get a huge benefit in terms of automating your source to pay activities. So this is a kind of onto the vendor ecosystem side that you get many benefits. Some of the very unique solutions along with it, that if somebody wants to sign multiple contracts, agreements, and documents, then we have Signature, our digital signing platform. Then we have our IDP solutions, which helps in terms of automating multiple documents per se, and reading of those documents and doing automated data entry with our RPA solutions. We have exim process automations, we have a compliance tracker, and we do lots and lots of kinds of ERP automation as well into the offering. Some of the partner softwares that we have is, one is boardroom management software. That's very interesting for all the publicly listed and other companies who have a robust boardroom, and the board members are not present in the same room, but are were kind of joining the board meetings from different locations. This really helps into it. When we talk about automation of indirect tax, and now most of the countries into the region are also automating the direct tax. So more or less direct data is going to sync for the authorities in a very clear manner. And if you want to have a clear view, you will also have to consolidate your balance sheets for further reporting. So we have a global balance sheet consolidation partner with whom we are coming up with very, very interesting solutions into that. Apart from this, we do managed IT and security offerings, that is, we have litigation management solutions, and we also have managed services in terms of filing and preparing of tax returns. So these are the multiple different activities, solutions that we provide to the clients across the globe.
Perfect. Now,
These are some of the high level volumes that we handle. These are kind of good size volumes to showcase our capabilities in terms of how we handle the volumes. And whenever any customer across the globe has a large volumes to be handled, and this is going to be very critical in UAE, because the amount of technology solution that has been selected and handling large volumes is going to be quite challenging. So this is one area where we are very good at it, and we are very effective as well into that.
now I think we should focus now on the UAE invoicing mandate. So coming to the critical topic here. Now, before we get to the UAE and the people and all of that, just going back to the basics, what's basically an e-invoice? Is it just a PDF copy of the paper invoice?
No, not at all, because PDF copies have been prevalent into it, but providing data into a structured format is what the real invoice could be. And invoices in a structured format could be XML, could be a JSON, it could be an embedded PDF with XML embedded into it. So there are multiple different methodologies around it, but the data has to be provided into a structured format, wherein specific fields which are mentioned have to be provided, and that is how it has to be one should be able to receive and send it into a specific format, and the formats that are given by the tax authorities also needs to be done. But in the long run, having the invoices is going to automate a very large portion of the entire uh, what you called as purchase, means like S2P solutions, R2R also, and multiple different requirements for businesses to run that will kind of get automated because of the invoices overall.
Okay. Now moving to the difference between a reporting and a clearance model.
I think the good part about UAE is that they are going for the reporting model. In a clearance model, you need to first send the invoice to the tax authorities and ensure that it is registered onto the tax authorities. You get acknowledgement from the tax authority framework, and once you receive it, then only you can send the goods, or the invoice will be considered a genuine invoice. While into the reporting model, you just kind of send your invoices as you do it, it's business as usual. and whatever invoice that you're done, you have to send it into the tax authorities into the period that kind of is specified by the tax authority. But most of the tax authorities, at least specifically for the B2B invoices, will always say that it has to be as near to the real time as it is possible. So even though it's not a clearance model, a flexibility has been given, but it is more important that you, when you are building your systems or when you are focusing into those systems, it's important that you ensure that it's as near to the real time as possible.
Correct. And I think even though it is a reporting model, still you should validate the data so that later on when you are reporting it to the authority, and your data doesn't get failed or your transaction don't get failed at the authority level.
Yeah, like Akash, in UAE, we will have to wait for the what type of validation that comes from the authorities to be kind of implemented onto the people framework. Because the biggest challenge over here, people, is a very open framework. So you can send multiple different types of documents through the people framework. You can send multiple different informations also as a part of the people framework. So it's not required that it will be only the invoice information. That could be multiple different informations which will go into it. So that's important to understand what comes from the authorities and what type of model they bring in, or what type of validations they ask the AP and SNP providers to put into the place, or a people accredited players to put into place, by which the data is streamlined. So this is something we'll have to wait for this information to come in. Right now, though, they've collected information from multiple large taxpayers, and they would be scrutinizing the information and then coming up with the clear clarifications around it. So we have to wait for that clarifications to come in.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned a few people terms. So I guess we can just, it's a quick slide or a snapshot of the key terms that a businesses should be aware of.
Yeah, I think you can explain this better than me, so I would request you to explain this terms.
I think absolutely. So primarily, I guess any enterprise who is looking within UAE should be well versed with these, because you are going to hear these terms for the next 1 year very, very extensively. And starting with the people authority or people network, it is primarily the European based network which is used to exchange information and documents. So primarily for UAE, it will be invoices, credit note, debit notes. Whether they allow other type of documents or not, that is still come. And people ID. Now this will become very important because every entity that you have within your group registration, whether you want to have a people identifier for all of them, or whether you want a group level single people identifier, that will be a decision that businesses will have to take when they do the implementation, because that will be the receiving end of the network. It's more of like a mobile SIM card number, whether you want a SIM card for each and every entity or whether you want a single number where you can receive your incoming invoices. So that will be the people ID. The access point and SMP and SML, those are more of like the people network score. So there should be an access point which you will be able. It's like the corner to through which the invoices will enter the people network, and then SMP, which is more like a dictionary of which access point to send your outgoing invoices. That's like a dictionary or a metadata. Onto the document messaging and the governance side, I think AS4 is an important term which you should be aware of, because that is the protocol using which the data will be transferred. It is different than API. I think how much speed and efficiency it is going to bring up is a question mark. It is secure, but on the efficiency side, we will know once we go live with those kind of information.
And some of the critical Akash pointers which I feel into this is we still don't have a clarity about whether it's going to be a local SMP or it's going to be a global SMP. So we
Hmm.
need to wait for that clarity to come in. And maybe if the clarity is already there, I may be missing out onto it. And the second is that when we talk about AS4 protocol, here basically the data will be transferred into a XML format, and when the AP receives the data, they will scan through the entire XML to identify which AP the data has to be sent across to it. This
Right.
process is little bit time consuming, and it's not it's highly secure in nature, but it is not as efficient as a normal methodologies that we use. So a normal API integration may be much faster in speed, but AS4 integrations would be taking time. So how the architecture of the applications and the system has been done and what level of volumes they are able to handle, that is critical. So a person who has high volume should definitely take care of these particular requirements. The good part it's a reporting model, so you can send information even little bit delayed, and that should be working fine. But at the same time, if you have a regular high level of information that needs to be sent across, then it's important that you have an efficient provider in place for the same.
Absolutely. I think focusing on you touched a very critical point of XML. So that's what I wanted to even showcase on what all as a prerequisite a business should do is you know on a people it is a five corner model. You need to have an access point which is linked to an SMP, and the data will flow accordingly. So for a business, the primary first step is to have an accredited service provider to who can guide the business on how the data would flow, can do the data check, can even review their data readiness from the data dictionary which people has prescribed, and even do the integration into the people framework. So that's the first step I would recommend.
Now, one more area, Akash, people need to kind of consider onto it is, do they always need to do all these things? Do they need to kind of fine tune their systems by which they have to provide the data into XML format? And already for different geographies, and as we both know that the invoicing case is quite different than what is going to come in UAE. Oman is different, Bahrain is different, and the Qatar tender is also different. So all of this are having a different thing. So I think the service providers will have to provide that facilities to the taxpayers the way kind of we are doing to all our clients, by which they will be getting a flexibility by which they can provide the information maybe into a normal API methodology or maybe even SFTP methodology, and we will convert that into a people friendly pinned XML format. So they may not have to go through that. Even when the reverse means like when the data comes to them, over that time also we can convert the XML into the format which is more friendly for our taxpayers to kind of work on to that. So this type of a flexibilities or a facilities will have to provide as a service provider so that it becomes easier for the large corporates or the corporates to kind of do their work. So this is something very interesting that we are going to take care from our side when we provide the solutions or the solutions that we have already made live as a sandbox for the customers.
Great. I think that will check the readiness as well. And we have seen most of the businesses in Middle East have a single ERP instance across multiple countries. Like they'll have one ERP instance for, let's say, 5 countries of Middle East. So a single integration point really makes a lot of sense to them and saves a lot of time. And talking about time, here comes the timelines. I think FTA or MOF, the authorities are not a bit delayed onto releasing the regulations or releasing the accreditation platform for players like us. But I don't see the final deadline moving. Like no matter whether we get less time or more time, it is going to remain stuck at July 2026 for the go live for the phase one.
Even when VAT was being rolled out in UAE, everybody was talking about that it will get delayed, but it actually did not get delayed. So let's not live in a kind of a denial and assume that things are going to be delayed. It's important that we kind of work towards ensuring that it's going to be met as per the deadline that has been given. So people need to work towards it.
Absolutely. And working on to UAE e-invoicing means having the specialized solution for the e-invoicing framework. And I think this is the framework which is going to come in. So,
So
so
yeah, you can explain this much better because you
yeah,
have been
it's
an expert explaining it into multiple different events into it.
so it's a typical five corner people framework where you have got like a supplier and a buyer ecosystem as a corner one and corner four. So if let's say you consider yourself as a supplier in a scenario, the invoice that you generate from your ERP will get interfaced across to corner 2. This is the people AP, which is the access point. Now, the first integration point comes in as a step one, whether you do this integration yourself or you have service providers helping you ensure that you are able to convert the data into the right format. And that's where the corner two will accept the data into the Paint UAE format and do the validation. Now, right now, the validation will be very basic, but to have an enhanced validation of a VAT applicability or compliance checks, that's something that an access point or an access service provider can provide you as a value added service or can even enhance your data from that perspective. Once the data is with the corner two, they have validated it and it is successful. They'll do the step two, which is to ensure that the data is pushed across to the authority. So it is reported to authority. It's a reporting model. So this will happen maybe within 24 hours, 12 hours. We will get the regulations on the same. And along with that, it will push the invoice, the transaction credit note, debit note to your corner three, which will be your buyer's access point. To do that, there will be a service metadata call in between. It will identify basis the people ID, which access point your buyer is using, and the data will be pushed to corner three. Corner three will also do those three steps. It will validate the data as per the Pint XML format and the standard e-invoicing data dictionary. It will also push the invoice to corner five. So if you'll notice here, both the corners, the sending corner and the receiving corner are pushing the data to the authorities so they know that the transaction in real is happening and there is no fake invoicing or any of those scenarios are also catered. And the third thing which corner three will do is push this invoice to your ERP, to your buyer's ERP, or if you are the buyer, then integrating into your ERP. It could be your ERP, it could be a GRM system. So it depends. So when you are looking for your accredited service providers, you need to ensure that which systems you need to integrate with. It is just your AR system and as well your AP systems as well. So this is at a high level how the data will flow. So from corner one to corner two, two will send to both five and three, and then three will push it to your ERP, and three will also report it to the authorities at corner five.
Yeah,
Now,
one
whether there
major
will be a
interest.
rejection,
Yeah,
yeah,
Akash, one, two major interesting points which come up for the conversations and my questions are that because as it has been actually mentioned that you have to register as per the entity wise for each of that. So each separate entity will be corner one and how that will carry forward to a group because when you need to consolidate data each corner wise into a group format then you will need a consolidation software which will bring in all this data into a single point and then only be able to file your VAT return. So it's going to be a challenge in terms of the tax authorities and also a challenge for corporates that because you will be dealing entity wise on the invoicing platform, but you'll be dealing at a group level when you are filing your VAT returns. So this is going to be a complication little bit on things. And when you kind of design your systems or when you design your e-invoicing methodology, you need to think through this area as well into this particular model specifically.
absolutely. I think one of the recommendations that we give nearest to our customers is always use the combination of TRN and the name of the entity. So that with TRN you are able to group and with the name you are able to bifurcate for consolidation and even for reconciliation. So I think any enterprise should look for such solutions from their
An
provider.
entity name exactly as per your EJARE certifications or your government
Exactly.
authority certification. Don't complicate it to give
Correct.
something else into the whole process.
Right. And
And
I think
another
some
point is that into the data masters for vendors and customers, people will have to add a field to ensure that they are storing the numbers, names as well, because that is one definite name that they will have to provide in terms of further
correct,
communication.
correct. Very true. I think that's the constraint. I would say we touched a few of the constraint already. Maybe you want to highlight some advantages.
Yeah, I think it interoperability to across borders, and I feel this is one of the reasons why UAE has selected people a model because it's actually a export-import hub, and 70% or 50% of the entire kind of goods and services that happen in UAE has some or other relationship with some other country in the world. And that's why it's extremely important that they have interoperability multiple across the borders. And that is the reason why they may have selected the people model. It definitely brings in a lot of efficiency. Initially, it will be a challenge, but it brings in a lot of efficiencies. Uh, AS4 is very secure in sharing your documents because it's a very, very secure protocol into it, and it improves the transparency into the overall. So these are definitely uh, pain points, but there are some constraints into it. The initial setup and integrations are something, if you are going to redo it, it's going to be cost will be high. The cost implications per transaction is definitely going to be a little bit on a higher side. So many corporates we want to use their own internal systems and may use a third-party API SNP. But when you're using a third-party API SNP, then obviously the cost considerations will go high. So that is that. And I've already spoken earlier, but the AS4 protocol where the speed of invoice transfer is going to be comparatively slow. So that is something which as a constraints we need to be aware of it, and we need to design our systems in a manner by which that is taken care of.
Correct, very true. And extending the challenges or maybe the advantages a bit, we can now focus on how the implementation should be catered by an enterprise. So maybe extending that a little bit more. I think invoice data availability, we all know the plethora of source systems that every enterprise has. I think it will be a challenge just to identify which systems to integrate. Even the inter-system integrations needs to be relooked at because we have seen it's mostly at a summary level. So even though they would have a very sophisticated ERP such as SAP or Oracle or even Dynamics, but the other billing solutions are not talking to that core system at a line level, which will be needed.
Yeah, I
And
think data validations also you need to be taken care of it because people is comparatively quite open format in terms of the data validations requirements. But when we look at it from the angle of the VAT requirements, we need to ensure that the VAT fields data validations are already uh, incorporated into your data that you prepare into it. So that's important. Syncing with local authorities is something that you need to take care of it, how you go about it and what you do it. So that's important. Again, we have talked so many times, and every time I think both of us would have spoken into hundreds of events that you need to have a single source of truth for all your data, and you need to have everything into a data warehouse by which you are able to do it. Even if you are not considering B2C today, but as per the FAF file requirement for the your VAT returns, you need to have the B2C data at a line item level to be able to provide to the tax authorities as and when it is required. So it's there. On the data hosting sites, even though there is a flexibility provided that we can choose and pick and choose in UAE where we want to store the data, but I would always feel that data localization rules are coming in across the globe. So be prepared for it, and you don't need to kind of redo it. So store data locally in UAE. And now there are many, many cloud solution providers who are available in UAE. So even if you want to go that route, that is something which is there. And last but not the least, ensure that you don't have different providers for ASP, AP, and SMP because it will just add on to your cost and it will bring in a lot of inefficiency into the system. So if you have a provider who provides all three solutions and also does the integrations for you, then that's the best option to go for it. But if you are looking at multiple different providers, then that's a challenge which is going to come in.
absolutely. I think on the data hosting options, I guess there will be a lot of discussion around where the data should to be hosted, whether they should go for a, because it's people. There will be a lot of global players also providing services where their service could be in Europe and other geographies. But I think it is important to focus on how important the local data residency laws are and how much better it is to have like a local player deploying their data and archiving the data locally within UAE.
Sure. I think that's critical and that we need to do it.
Right. Now, maybe we want to focus on like a step-by-step guide on what you should look at when you are doing your e-invoicing implementation. I think we have tried to capture all the key steps. I think this will be a very important slide for any enterprise. I think the first step is always to start. A good start is half done, as we say, and so is the step-by-step guide in this e-invoicing implementation. We would recommend everyone to at least have a look at it and start early in your implementation journey.
I think a normal implementation journey from start to end takes anything between 6 months to 9 months, and that's our experience of UAE. So it's important to start having the internal workshops to start with, workshops to at least have awareness around what is going to come in, then
Right.
start a kind of a workshop in terms of identifying your readiness for this entire exercise. These are the two things you need to start before you actually engage with the service provider that you want to go into it. So these are the two areas which you should focus on to it and start working around it. So that's important for us to look at it.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned about workshop, and I think that's bring us to this slide where you identify your current processes.
And many manual processes would be there, and this is the opportunity that you need to take it. And why start early? Because you can convert, instead of having a knee-jerk reaction to the implementation that is required to be done, you can have a process by which you start early and start converting a lot of your manual process into automation, so you get much more benefit out of the investments that you are doing for the invoicing. So not only restrict it in terms of just doing a compliance requirement, but actually taking it up as a business process automation and taking benefits out of the entire invoicing ecosystem. So that is something one must focus on to it and really work towards it. That's a very high level point that I would like to bring into the table.
Perfect. I think this point is very similar to that only of ensuring that how the correction process is even being followed at the moment.
And
Because
we know globally credit note and debit note are the biggest pain points into the exercise, and every business will have a different methodology. And I again go back, even in the last event that I spoke about it, that law is not going to follow business processes will have to follow law. So we will have to find our ways, even though it is more time consuming or more cumbersome, but we'll have to find the right kind of business processes for issuing credit note debit notes by which it's fulfilling into the law requirements. This is something which needs a study and which has to be ensured that we do it well.
yes, and I think a lot of businesses learned this in the KSA implementation when authorities made the linking mandatory and verification. I think it is important for them to focus on these things. Now, also, like we were talking about the single source of truth or the data sources, and here is very important for all the businesses to understand what all systems they need to consider to identify where the data is coming from, whether it is their SAP, and even in SAP, which all modules gets impacted. They need to have an SAP or a due diligence done by service providers and tech stack providers to understand the overall impact, and at the same time understand even how many manual e-invoicing options that they have, because all of those areas needs to be covered. And of course the POS systems, or I would say hospitality industry, I'm just looking at the challenge that they are foreseeing with micros and opera, the system integration and the lack of ability to integrate. It will be a challenge.
Definitely, it's not going to be an easy task and it's going to be a challenge, because for many years people have not modernized or gone out of the comfort zones in terms of the technology that they have been using. So that definitely is going to make a difference today. And these are the opportunities wherein you modernize, you update your systems, and you bring in a completely new methodology into the whole process. So that's what we need to focus and work around into this area. This is the, if you ask me globally, which is the biggest problem in terms of any indirect tax implementation, it's master data cleansing. And this is something which is a major challenge. See, today, all your data is in a closed loop. You are not sharing it or sending it to any government authorities. Once invoicing comes into play, your all basic data is going to be shared with the government authorities, and not having a proper clean data That's something which is always going to be a verification. These are the activities which can be done today, even while waiting for the law, and lot of this information can be taken care of it. The HSN and HS code is going to be the biggest challenge per se for the tax authorities to be implemented. And I really hope that initially some relaxations are provided around this, by which it's not forced upon to do it from day one. But this is something I would request we have 1.5 years or 15 months from now onwards. So let's invest that time in doing our master data cleansing and ensuring that we have this information quite in place for the time to come in.
Yeah, one thing which we often come across, or one question which everyone has during this discussion is the verification of the HSN codes. I mean, validation and verification of the HSN and SSC code. I think that will be very important. How authorities will validate, how your access points will validate the data.
Absolutely.
Now, going towards the data dictionary, I think it is a hot topic of discussion within UAE enterprises. Like the data dictionary is out, and there are a lot of mandatory fields, about 50. And these are the 15 which were not there in the VAT regulations originally. So I guess it's a gap which all enterprises will have to focus on how to get this data. How do they ensure that it is available as a mandatory going forward before the go live kicks in?
But Akash, I don't see that that taxpayers needs to have all these 15 data points into the system, because a lot of data points are data generated out of the base data that they are going to provide. And it's possible for the authorities, not the authorities, but it is possible for the service providers to help them generate that data into the system. So they don't have to work actually in doing that. If I talk about the banking systems, it's impossible in certain amount of types of banking system to make these changes. So whatever data changes have to happen is from the basic data. It has to happen into the service provider systems only, and that is the only way it will benefit into the whole process. So this is something that we need to focus and take care of it. And this is the real reason why workshops are required with the other multiple different organizations, by which they can understand what they need to do and what are the areas that they need to be prepared for it, so that the minimum amount of changes that they need to do on their side, by which things could be taken care of it. So that's very, very important in understanding this data dictionary in a depth. That's important.
Perfect, perfect. Very well said. Right. And I think with you mentioned about the data dictionary, and then that there goes the even the testing part of the e-invoice generation.
Yeah. So testing the data is right or wrong, it's extremely important. And even creating manual reports and uploading into a portal and testing it out. And that is why people said that without even being the rules out or without being the law clearly out, why you have released a staging environment. And my argument onto that was very simple, that this is going to be a people based implementation. People frameworks are standard across the globe to a quite a deep level. And at least if we are ready from the people side of it, it will be very easy to be ready for the UAE people framework that will come in. So that's important that you test it out as per the UAE people framework. And whatever mandatory fields are required, that is already provided in the data dictionary. So as long as you have all those fields into your system, it's going to be quite easy when the compliance comes in. And that is why we have released this staging environment for people to register onto it and start using it from our side.
Right, great. And I think that will give a great advantage for all businesses who want to be who want to be proactive in nature and not just wait for the final things to release and then rush with the implementation.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, this is again very, very required, that for
correct.
each means like you need to segregate the data for multiple transaction type. And for each transaction, what would be the kind of requirement that needs to be studied in detailed and prepared for it? Because like if you recollect some of the meetings that we had in KSA, even after a couple of years of implementation, people are not able to provide all the data for invoicing that is required, and they are still struggling onto the transaction types that are not being able to comply. So this is extremely important that there is a difference which is coming in a big way into the what is the VAT reporting that they are doing onto it, and what is the reporting that they are doing from the invoicing side, and not to have those type of differentiators into your returns. It's important that you have studied each of the transaction type and ensured that the data is available from each of the transaction type for the e-invoicing that is going to be done. So this is a genuine exercise which all corporates either does it with the help of a consultant or does in-house, but this is required to be done.
Right. And similarly, I think here we are talking about the multiple modes of data integration or the data collection.
Absolutely. So I think
Whether
most of the companies have already done API level integration and they would want to follow it. And as long as they have all the necessary fields that is coming in from the API, means the service providers like us should facilitate that they are able to send the data into API. We convert into a people XML and send it across to the authorities. So that's something which we should facilitate from our side to reduce the effort and the time and the investment from the corporate side. So this is important for us to understand and study. The second option is SFTP based integration. Because if you have a global ERP, you are not able to integrate at API level, you are not able to make the changes at the XML level, a people methodology, then you can also do a SFTP level integration from the basic data. So that is also a possibility to comply with the authorities.
right. I think there are some systems which are not API ready, or there are some systems which are not API friendly. So for them, we will have to do the integration accordingly.
And the third one is that you can also integrate at the database level, use SSIS for the integration. So this is a methodology which is also possible to be done. And the fourth one is that if you are not even able to do with any of the three, you can also do IDP in terms of reading the invoices and creating a record out of it and do that. So that fourth one is also possible for people to do it. And this will specifically be implemented into the hospitality segment because that is the area where this is going to be material in nature unless and until the systems get modernized.
Which I don't see happening, but yes, let's hope for the best.
Absolutely.
And I think, well, of course, onboarding a certified ASP is very important because they will be a core part of this overall compliance, and not just limited to compliance, but your overall digital transformation journey, as you rightly said. That whenever they are evaluating a service provider, always look at all the options and all the extensions of e-invoicing which they have done to ensure like a digital transformation journey of your purchases sales rather than just like a e-invoicing provider.
Absolutely.
I think these are the
Again,
options.
yeah, these are very critical options. It means like here on-premise will not be a complete on-premise because you will also have to go through a API-SNP into it. But at least you can use a API-SNP just as a pipe and use the on-premise as the main application for the visualization and all that. So that is possible. You can have your own private cloud as well, or you can go into a public cloud that we provide from our side. So all the three options are important, and UAE is predominantly on-prem market. So unless and until we provide a quality on-prem solutions, it's very challenging for the customers to work towards it. So I think the change will come in with more and more cloud solutions provider coming into UAE. But yes, primarily it's going to be on-prem market.
True, true. I think on the private cloud also we have seen some flexibility because the large enterprises here have already invested into, let's say, having their own Azure or AWS, and that's where I think we can also extend and provide those extended services of using their existing ecosystem.
Absolutely. This is a
This is a
very
quite detailed and a Bible slide, I would.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting question also. Okay, why can't we do only through ERP and why do we need a ASP at all? So I always say that do you want to do only through maker system or you want a maker and a checker system both? So that's a question people do. But yeah, you can explain the slide a little bit in more detail for the audience.
Right. I think this is a detailed extension of the overall corner fives that we initially saw. So what you would see here is the source systems that an enterprise would have generally, and then the integration options of either using an API, SFTP, or a direct database connection. And when I was talking about corner one, we just touch base that it will be your ERP or it will be you as a supplier acting as a corner one. But don't look at it like that, because we also provide an extension where your e-invoicing solution should also function as a corner one. So whether it is the validation of the data, conversion of data into the pinned format, storing, archiving, and even BI dashboards, and of course, the reconciliation between your VAT and your e-invoicing, all of that should be looked at when you are looking at your corner one or an e-invoicing system as a whole. So the data from your ERP coming into that corner one, which is again like we are providing our VAT solution, where same data is also used for your VAT return, for your GL reconciliation, and all of that. And from there, of course, the corner two, which is the access point of people, comes into picture, where it is validating as per people only, doing the SMP and SML lookups, pushing the data to tax authority, pushing the data to the corner three of your recipient access point, and then taking it further to the corner four's invoicing. Now, most of these functions can happen in real time, even though the prescribed model is just for the reporting purposes. But ideally, we recommend doing it in real time. The reason for the same is the data validation or the verification of an e-invoice, as we call. And secondly, to ensure that your applicability and your credit notes or your extended document verification happens also within the prescribed time. Once the invoice is issued or provided or handed over to your customer, if we have those kind of validations run as a postmortem, it would just bring in a complication of reversing those transactions with credit note, creating a new transaction. It will just increase the overall load onto your compliance team.
I think this is a very detailed slide, and people need to understand that in quite a detail, because this is going to be the basis on how your implementation framework actually happen. And understanding each of these areas, this is like a combination of all the previous slides put into one, which helps a person understand the actual implementation. Yeah, thanks, Akash.
And I think, secondly, I'll just move forward to.
Yeah, this is one point, and I would like to take a pause for today's session, having put across this slide that you need a single solution provider for all your compliance needs. So a lot of multinationals will say that we have a multinational provider who has taken care of it in other countries and will like to continue with it. But in that particular process, you miss out on the verification of the invoices, and that is something very, very important. And maybe into the next webinar subsequent to this, we'll take over the real reasons why you need to kind of integrate invoicing with your VAT solutions, and why you want to club both of this. So that is extremely important. Having a matured VAT solution working in tandem with the invoicing solution is very important. And if you have a single solution provider who has the AP, SNP, and the ASP solution and the vault solution, then there are very little less failure points, lesser operational cost, single source of truth will always be there, and improved data security. All of this benefits would come into the process. So that's important that a person selects us. It's not just selecting us, but it's I talk about selecting any of the invoicing provider based on this particular area. Yeah, in this particular side, you're very well articulated all of this reasons why you should consider for choosing an invoice provider.
I think you've already touched based on all these critical points, like the things that an enterprise should consider when they are choosing it, whether it is like a single provider for your solution, AP, SMP, looking at the option of on-prem or on cloud, and having the experience of Middle East, volume handling, all of those integration capabilities inbuilt into them. So yeah, rightly
Yeah.
said.
Now that we have demystified the UAE invoicing mandate and explored the compliance framework, let's move to a practical demonstration. Join Akash Chaudhary as he walks us through Signet's invoicing portal and access point, showcasing how it all comes together in action.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the demonstration of UAE invoicing portal from Signet. I will showcase how our e-invoicing platform combined with our own access point and SMP is able to give you a complete onboarding of your entities, integration of your source data across for the e-invoicing, and how the e-invoices look in the portal, how those can be downloaded or can be shared across to your customers, and your incoming purchase invoices are also synced across. This is the main global e-invoicing solution of Signet Infotech. As soon as we log in, we are redirected towards the dashboard, which highlights some key statistics like how many invoices are interfaced, how many are generated, how many are yet pending. This section manages all your companies, sub-companies, all your entities and child entities within your group. So while you have a new company onboarding, you can very easily do that. We provide multiple country support, but for now we'll focus on UAE. So here we have got the PayPal as our standard way of transmission of e-invoicing. So as soon as we select PayPal, we ask you to provide your PayPal identifier. Now this will be an identifier which you will get from PayPal. It's more of like a unique number associated with your organization. It is different to your TRN and is generally used to locate where to send the invoice and where the invoice is coming from. So for TRN, you might be having TRN at a group level where you have got maybe, let's say, for an example, 10 companies within that group using the same TRN. But for the people ID, your all 10 companies will have a different people ID because they can raise an invoice and can accept an invoice separately. It's not combined. Along with the identifier value, you can specify which documents you can issue and accept. It's a general PayPal way of setting up an organization or setting up an entity. Once this is done, you onboard your entity onto the network. So here, as soon as we create, we do auto onboarding. So you'll see this example here. It is onboarded to an SMP, which means it is now part of the metadata publisher, the global directory, from where this can accept any invoices. The tax authority onboarding is something which Ministry of Finance and FTA will launch, so that once those APIs are up, your entity will also be onboarded with the FTA and Ministry of Finance for the e-invoicing purposes. Users and user management is quite simple. We also allow a single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. And our roles and rights management is quite detailed one where we have minute level or action level selection for the privileges and the policies. So you can decide who does what within the portal. Import screen. Now this is the main screen where all your invoices coming in are showcased. So whether your user have uploaded the invoice through this portal, through manual upload, or any data which is interfaced through API, as well as any data which is interfaced through NSFTP file sharing is all listed here, which is validated by our portal. So validation is one of the very important factor when it comes to e-invoicing, because what you want is minimum failure rates once the invoice is within the PayPal network, so that none of the access point or even the FTA and Minister of Finance access point does not reject your invoice. So we validate all the required parameters beforehand, and we not just validate it from the e-invoicing perspective, like the minimum data field which is required as per the e-invoicing data dictionary, and the validation rules around the same. But we also validate the invoice basis the VAT regulations. For example, if this is an export, it should be 0 rated. But if the invoice has got a standard rate mentioned, it will highlight that as a warning or an error. Same goes for different type of transaction, like intercompany transaction should be out of scope, etc. So those VAT checks, we call it verification of an e-invoice, And it is very important because if the e-invoicing is done for an incorrect invoice, what it means at a later stage when you are doing your VAT return filing and you realize that it's a incorrect invoice, you have to generate the credit note, issue a new invoice, and it just adds up to a whole lot of manual working. And if you miss it, then there's a chance of being under an audit and trying to identify a transaction which is incorrect. So any of those errors are listed into our error screen where it can be corrected here, or the correction can be done within the source system. Either way, the error can be corrected. And once the final corrected data flows in, it automatically pushes it for the e-invoicing. Now, this screen of e-invoice, this is the main screen where all the e-invoices are listed. You will see here the status says PayPal delivered. Now, if I click on any of these documents, it actually opens up that document into a view mode. We have those different fields and the data within those. Any document which is also attached with this particular invoice will also be listed here, and it's a basic information of this particular invoice. As a user, what I can do is I can either send this invoice as an email to my customer. So whatever information is mentioned as an email address in the data, it is used to send the email. Or I can download this PDF and maybe like print it or manually send it using my own email, etc. So the choices of the user to how to take this data forward. In either of the case, as you know, PayPal is a five-corner model. The invoice is any which way going to be received by your buyer through the PayPal network. So that's been taken care very, very smoothly, and there are no challenges over there. And we provide multiple filter options here, right from options like what is the type of the document to the PayPal status, and any if you have multiple entities, all those entities are listed here to actually showcase what needs to be done with the document. Let me just download the PDF again, and we'll look at it how it functions. Apart from this, I can also have further invoicing actions. Let's say you want the listing or the invoices to be manually pushed for the invoice generation. You can do that using this particular button. Now moving towards the inward invoices, or as we say, the purchase invoices. So all your purchase invoices will be listed here. So what you can see here is, so all your purchase invoices will be listed here. So what you have here is a particular purchase invoice, which is sent to you. You can click on it, look at all the details which are there. You can even download the PDF version of this. So what I can do is I can download a PDF, or I can even push it to my ERP from here itself. So either or, the functions can be taken care. Apart from this, we have got the report section where basic reports around audit trail. So who is doing what on the data, any users changing any sort of data is highlighted over here. The data activities is separately also listed. So every API call that happens is listed here, and it actually showcases if there is any failed callback. We have a record here to actually identify what was the error, and it actually is an easy way to troubleshoot if there are any failures into the data. We have got quite detailed level of security settings since we work with a lot of banks. So policies around password, account lock, etc. And again, as I was mentioning about the single sign-on, we provide all these Active Directory support. There is a two-factor authentication and API controls, and some of the document printing controls are also here, which actually you can specify the header, footer, and you can showcase some of the custom fields into the PDF, which gets generated. Also, there are a set of masters within the application. So masters such as your product master, your business partner, which will be your vendors and customers, as well as the email templates for sending of the emails, etc. is managed within this particular portal. This also allows you to actually track all the activities which user is doing, and that's in a quick nutshell, the overview of the Signet e-invoicing portal. All the e-invoice generation of your outward and inward is managed, and at the same time, any exceptions are also displayed. So validation is done. The document generation is also done. And now I will quickly jump onto the access point portal. So this is again Signet's access point, which works in the background. Generally, your user team or the finance team will not be accessing this, but this is more so to explain how things work. So all the organizations and the participants, so by participant, we mean entities which are part of the people framework with the APA are listed here. And the documents which are sent and received by a particular organization are also listed here. So any document which is sent through this APA will be listed, as well as any documents which are received by this particular APA are also displayed here. Now, one thing that you will notice is there are not much of the details when it comes to a particular document. It's the XML file, so the actual XML details which this particular API receives as a part of the people response is listed here. I think that was a quick overview of the e-invoicing solution and an access point system of Signet. Do let us know for any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.